Council meeting for 2019. We, the Greater Shepparton City Council, begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Please note the privacy notice that this public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. Councillors, note item 3, apologies. Do we have any apologies tonight?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move that the apology from Councillor Orasvari be noted and a leave of absence be granted.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Adam. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, do we have any declarations of conflict of interest tonight to be declared? Nope. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes or previous minutes. Is any item of the minutes opposed? If not, would a council like to move the recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 18th of December 2018 as circulated be confirmed, please?
Yeah, Madam Mayor. The last meeting was held so long ago, we've probably got a vague recollection of what happened, but notwithstanding that, I'm happy to move the recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held 18th of December 2008 as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hazeman, do I have a seconder, please?
No motion.
Councillor Adam, all those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to item 7.1. We have some petitions. Oh, sorry, there's no question time. Sorry. Mr Harriet, there's no questions tonight? That's correct. No questions. We'll now go on to item 7.1 on page 2. We have a petition which is the use of Ford Road as an east-west truck link. Would someone like to move the recommendation, please, on page 2?
Madam Mayor, I'll move the recommendation that the council receive the petition relating to the use of Ford Road as an east-west truck link.
Much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sutton. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
We're just receiving the petition.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sutton, would you like to speak?
I'd just like to say I thank them for providing us with this petition relating to the use of Ford Road, and I would imagine it would have taken quite a bit of time, so just thank you to those who took the time to do this petition.
Thank you very much. Do any council wish to speak against the motion? Would any council like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we also have another petition, item 7.2 on page 3, request to reserve the B double classification of Ford Road. Would the council like to move a motion, please? Councillor Summer? What would you like to move?
I'll move that the council receive the petition relating to the request to reverse the B double classification of Ford Road.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
At 880 signatures. We're accepting quite a few petitions tonight, so we have to acknowledge that there is a lot of comment in the community by quite a few of our proposed works, and it is getting a lot of attention. But as Councillor Sutton said earlier, I'd like to thank everybody for providing their input and offer them the assurance that we will always consider petitions. Whether it has the final bearing on our decision is another matter, but it's great to see the community getting involved with these things.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would any council wish to speak against the motion? Any council like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to another petition on page 4, item 7.3, Hordern Street and Verney Road intersection upgrade. Would a council like to move the recommendation, please? Councillor Giovannetti.
I'd like to move the recommendation on page 4 that the council receive the petition relating to Hordern Street and Verney Road intersection upgrade works.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Giovannetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, just following on from Councillor Summer and Sutton in thanking those people that have taken the time to sign the petition and for those people who have organised it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abdul, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thanks.
Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillor, we also have an item on page 5, 7.4. That has actually been withdrawn. It is a duplicate of item 7.3. There's a mistake there. Councillors, we'll now go to page 6, item 8.1, contract 1918, provision of tree maintenance services. The recommendation is also on page 6. Would a councillor like to move the motion, please? Councillor Abdullah.
I would like to move the recommendation on page 6 as a motion.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Patterson. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, quickly, this recommendation is about appointing a panel of 6 suppliers for maintenance of over 36,000 trees in Greater Shepparton. The recommendation also allows the CEO to sign and award this contract to the contractors. It is important for Greener Shepparton to have regular maintenance of trees and to contribute towards the livability of our towns. The maintenance work would include planting, pruning, maintenance, as well as removal of trees. The total cost of $1.98 million is based on the estimated number of trees for maintenance, and based on the auditing of trees, the maintenance job is normally identified and work orders are issued. So the tender evaluation panel is satisfied that the tenders have been evaluated in line with Council's procurement policy. The contract term is 3 years, so I am happy with the process involved. Thank you.
Much, Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It is always good to have a panel to call on. I recall probably 3 or 4 years ago we had a significant storm in the area and there was lots of trees down. One company had no chance of getting the work done. Therefore, we have a panel now that can, we can call on 3 or 4 different companies that can get motivated and get the job done for us. So that's a good thing.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
It's more of a notation than speaking to the notion. I just wanted to point out that once again we've got price listed at 50% of the weighting criteria. And when price is 50%, sometimes other factors such as OH&S, benefit to the local region, and environmental sustainability are fragmented, so don't actually come into the overall evaluation as much as we'd like. This happens to be almost $2 million in the contract, and for this to be about trees and not having more than 10% weighting applied to environmental sustainability is a bit of a red flag to me. But I am aware that we need to spend responsibly, but we also need to look at the triple bottom line, which is financial, social, economic, all of the holistic benefit to the community rather than just the financial aspect.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors will now go to page 9, item 8.2, Princess Park Future Directions Plan and Landscape Master Plan. Would a councillor like to move the motion, please? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, I'd like to move the motion on page 10. Thank you. The Council adopt the Princess Park Future Direction Plan and the Princess Park Landscape Management Plan.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you. This has probably been long overdue. It's a little hidden gem and we can look at it as we look out the window down there and realistically we've probably haven't kept up the pace with what's been happening down there. As Shepparton becomes a better known place for sport and recreation, Deakin Reserve being our main oval receives a lot of use and we do have to manage that, and we do need a good secondary oval come area that can attract and hold a lot of events. That is perfect down there. It needs a fair bit of work. We need pronto, as soon as possible, to find a suitable venue where we can establish a set of club rooms for the United Cricket Club and also the Swannies ladies netball change room facilities. They've had none at all. We've had issues at council. We've tried to help and it's fallen over, so we need to address that. but is a master plan that will address and allow the future development of that oval to take place. It'll take time, it won't all happen at once, but it's very important we start actioning these items as soon as possible. It will be a terrific venue. Well, it is already a terrific venue down there, but it's, you get down there and you could be anywhere in the world. It's a wonderful spot and it's very well used and patronised, and we do need to have this master plan put in place. It's been out for consultation. There's been a few things adjusted for it, and I highly recommend the plan, and let's get going and try and get some actual actions happening down there.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think for far too long there's been a scattergun approach to the development out there at the Princess Park. It's been seen as a poor cousin, I think, for too many decades in Greater Shepparton, so it's about time that this plan has been configured. I'm very happy to see it, and as Councillor Patterson said, not everything will happen at once, but slowly but surely we'll get there, and it will be one of the premier sporting locations in Greater Shepparton, as it should be.
Thank you very much. Councillor Adam, would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
I would just like to say that it is really forthcoming to see a master plan for Princess Park that would transform this public space into better utilised and presentable public space with more functionality. It aligns with the Council's objectives of enhancing the livability of our towns. And also having a future directions plan and landscape master plan, it will mitigate the risk of sort of ad hoc maintenance and infrastructure upgrades. And it also will increase the funding prospects. So it's really good to have a very structured and formal plan for our wonderful space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abdullah. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer?
I just want to thank everyone who contributed to the consultation process. I'm pleased to see that there's a dog park included in that. And I know some councillors have been quite keen to formalise the car parking around the park. And that's also in there. And it's a plan, it's not set in stone. We can make alterations as time goes on, but it's a lovely guide that gives us a clear strategy on how to move forward as budget arises.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? I think it's also worth adding that the opportunities that we're having as being perceived as the regional sporting capital of Australia, this is going to be another reason, a big reason why we need to really keep our facilities up to date and to continue those opportunities to come our way. I was actually present at the Australian Cricket Tournament recently, and it was great to hear the feedback that we do offer such great facilities, and we need this to be one of those facilities. I think we all agree on that one. All right, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, will now go to page 14, item 9.1, Maternal and Child Health Service 2017-2018 report. The recommendation is also on page 14. Would a councillor like to move the motion, please? Councillor Summer.
I'd like to move that the Council note the 2017-2018 Maternal and Child Health Report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. I really enjoyed reading this report. It's we do quite a lot of unseen work in the health sphere, and it's really important work, and reports like this really spell out what we do in terms of better outcomes for children and families. So we work with vulnerable children and families in a more intensive way. It is a challenging task, but we have been successful. We've made some ways forward in closing the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And we've been working in the space of family violence. Amazingly, a lot of family violence begins when the woman is pregnant, so we've managed to pick up on these things quite early and offer support. There's mention in here about the breastfeeding friendly cafe out, I think, at Riverside, and also child and family friendly cities, wanting to be that. And I think there's an app out there with the breastfeeding map, which is amazing. I'd like to see that be advertised through council a lot more. This is the sort of work that we're unlikely to receive criticism for. And the economic impact of every dollar we spend in trying to prevent further psychosocial issues down this track saves $17 from behaving reactively on things that have happened. So there's an evidence of a flow-on economic benefit that we've discussed at the last one. And obviously we're doing really good work, and hopefully it keeps improving.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Summer has given a very good summary of this report, but I was really pleased to read the report. The report actually highlights the important work our council undertakes to provide maternal and child health services. Council is committed to provide best outcomes for our children's health and well-being. This report, while I was reading the report, it was very clear that the report must be read in context of the reality that Greater Shepparton has a very large number of socially and disadvantaged, socially and economically disadvantaged population, and we also have a significant population of Aboriginal and called communities, which means that more services and more resources are required to ensure better outcomes in terms of maternal and child health. The support that the services provide, such as home visits at 10 key age stages, really helps in ensuring better outcomes for our children. It's very encouraging to see that, as Councillor Summer has pointed out, that there has been improvement in the percentage of home visits, and there has been a reduction in the gap between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal key age and stage visits. So I would like to thank to the dedicated staff, professional nurses and staff who provide these services to our community, and they play an important role in basically in having the best outcomes for their families' health.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. Sorry, Councillor Summer.
Closing comment, I made a bit of a mistake there. The breast pump hire, the breastfeeding safety location map and the cafe are all listed in the next item, not specific to maternal childhood health. So.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Summer. We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors will now go to page 23, item 9.2, Best Start Early Years Plan Update. The recommendation is also on page 23. Would a councillor please like to move the motion? Councillor Abdullah.
I would like to move the recommendation on page 23 that as a motion. The recommendation says that the Council acknowledges the work and achievements over the past 18 months of the Greater Shepparton Best Start Early Years Plan.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Sutton. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yep. So Greater Shepparton Best Start site has been operational since 2003, and this Best Start Early Year Plan 2015 to 2019 is basically in its last year. This integrated plan sets the strategic directions for best years and for Council's municipality early years plan. It is the fourth combined plan for Greater Shepparton, and each plan is governed by the Greater Shepparton Best Start Early Years Partnership. The focus of this plan is on child health, early learning, development and well-being. And target areas of the plan are basically engagement with maternal and child health service, breastfeeding rates, early childhood education, language and literacy skills of children prior to school. There's also a focus on vulnerable families and Aboriginal children and families for the maternal and child health and kindergarten outcome areas. So there have been several positive results in past 18 months. And I'm very pleased to see, again, something that I've already said, that I'm very pleased to see that the closing of the gap between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal population in MCH services is very encouraging. And also there has been an increasing enrollment for Aboriginal children in early start to kindergarten. So that's really good. And only the other day I was also reading a report in relation to the treaty discussion, and this development was highlighted. Perhaps this is one of the only few indicators of progress. So that's good that our council has played a role in this space. Yeah, so I would also like to say thanks to Greater Shepparton Best Start Early Year team and partner organizations for the important work they are doing. I would also like to thank Councillor Shelley Sutton for representing Council on this partnership committee. So, and I'm looking forward to be a representative on this committee in the year 2019.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Sutton, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. I'd just like to say thank you to Belinda and Sally, who are the planners on this very important committee, and they do an absolutely wonderful job. The program has been operating for about 4 years and works in partnership with representatives from local agency in the early childhood sector. It has a really positive impact on our community and is achieving much better outcomes for children and their families through the early years intervention and education. So it's been a really education outcome for me, because not being in that sector at all, I didn't really know much about it. So I did enjoy my time on there, and they work really well as a team, and they are making a lot of progress and having positive outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam?
Just a short comment. I'd just like to also thank the Department of Education and Training for contributing the lion's share to that program, so we shouldn't forget that.
Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 28, item 9.3, Greater Shepparton Youth Strategy and Action Plan 2019 to 2022. The recommendation is also on page 28. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Giovanetti.
Happy to move the motion on page 28 that Council adopt the Greater Shepparton Youth Strategy and Action Plan 2019 through to 2022.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Summer. Councillor Giovanetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I think we as councillors have seen firsthand what our council staff in the areas of Shepparton Youth are doing. We've had the opportunity with Jimmy Gow and his word of mouth. Kids come here and speak to us, and basically giving us information as to what the youth of Shepparton are looking for from the municipality. And I find that that's an excellent program that enables us to get some insight from kids of that age, because like some of the other councillors here, we don't have children of that age anymore, and it's very easy to lose touch with kids. But I've been very impressed with the work that Word and Mouth in particular has done, as well as the other council services, and I think that it's we're very fortunate to have staff who are very proactive in keeping in many cases, some of the socially disadvantaged youth within our community, keeping them on track and involving them with other services that are available to them. And I think that the kids themselves do a fantastic job, and it's a pleasure to have them in here.
Thank you for that, Councillor Giovanetti. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Hopefully we've hit the target on what young people want. It's not a huge budget allocation, but it's a non-service delivery approach. So we work in conjunction with other services like Lighthouse at a high level, and some achievements do come out of there. We've got the statewide skate park competition reference group, which is terrific because that's, statewide. So that's a big sporting event for us. And we're developing and delivering an Aboriginal cultural leadership program with 34 young people graduating from the program since 2017. So it's $25,000 well spent, and it shows that when we spend on young people early in their lives, the amount of government resources and day-to-day supports required later reduces dramatically.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Would any other councillor wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to pick up on the 6 key directions that the youth have given us as part of this process. They've asked for strategies to be loved and to provide health and safe environments. They've asked to have access to materials to learn and develop skills, to have a voice and to be part of the community, and for us to engage with the youth sector. So one of the immediate things that this strategy will be actioning is a concept which we've only just started to talk to the councillors about, but it's called the Shepparton Statement. And I note Rob McLean in the gallery tonight. He's just done a podcast with me in relation to that, and I thank you for assisting in that regard. But it's a simple environmental statement. We're asking the youth to prepare to send back to council to give us advice on what we should be doing better in relation to managing the environment. And I think that'll be a great way of engaging with the youth. And we know the youth are very interested in this space at the moment, and that advice will be warmly received, no doubt, and considered by council going forward in the future. But that's just one example of how this very important youth strategy is going to be actioned, and it'll be a little bit different to the way we've engaged and dealt with youth matters in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Patterson, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I thought you didn't ask if anyone wanted to speak against the motion, which I didn't want to speak, but I want to speak for it.
Sorry, I thought I did.
I just think, without confusing the whole world, I think we're all gobsmacked a couple of times here in the last year or so where word and mouth have come in with a group of kids, and it just blows you away what they've got to say, their ideas, the thoughts behind the processes they come up with these thoughts. It really does give you confidence in the future. There's, kids can cop a bad rap at times, but there's some terrific kids out there that are going to take us and lead us into the future, and I'm very confident they'll do a great job of it, probably better than we have, be cheerful.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. We'll get back on track. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, will now go to page 33, item 9.4, section 86, special committee members.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in respect of this item, and my apologies for not declaring the oversight, not declaring it earlier. And that conflict is that I'm one of the recommended appointees to a committee of management.
Okay, thank you very much. In the room, thank you for that, Councillor Hazelman, and noted. The item 9.4 on page 33, section 86, special committees memberships. The recommendation is on pages 33 and 34. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Patterson?
I'll move the motion on page 33 and 34. I won't read them out because it's considerable. Again, no.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Giovanetti. Now, Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion? We're a bit rusty, aren't we, in our first meeting?
Thanks for asking me. We often talk about where we'd be without our volunteers, and we've got a list of them here again that'll help out their local communities and ours. And I know Councillor Hazelman's excused himself, and he's been a long-term member of the Tallyroot and Recreation Reserve Committee, and I did serve on there with him before I became a councillor. And I was quite surprised he's still there. He's been there for a long time. But so a lot of these other people, they put their heart and soul in their communities, and they get in there and they get the job done, and they help out council so much by doing a little bit for their local recreation reserve, and they're fighting to get some funds to get things done from council. And without them, we'd be lost. And I congratulate those that have put their hand up again, and I thank those, and I want Carmel Strang and I think and Graham, Cheryl Garnham are the only two that aren't renominating out of the 3 or 4 recreation reserves, and I thank them for their service. And looking forward to this particular group getting in there and getting the job done again.
Thank you for that, Councillor Patterson. I couldn't agree more. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Did I second it?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Giovanetti. I'll put Adam here. Sorry, one line down. Councillor Giovanetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I just reiterate what Councillor Patterson has said. I think it's it's fantastic that we have people within the community who are prepared to join these Section 86 committees to assist council in looking after the various facilities and grounds that those committees are responsible for. Like Councillor Patterson, I'd like to congratulate Carmel Strang and Cheryl Garnham for their work on their respective committees and thank them very much for their time that they've so freely given.
Councillor Giovanetti, would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Would someone please like to get... Here he comes, Councillor Hazeman back in the room. Very good. Councillors will now go to page 39, item 10.1, January 2019 monthly financial report. The recommendation is also on page 39. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, I'll move the motion on page 39. Thank you. The council receive and note the January 2019 financial report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just quickly, I'd like to invite our Financial Director, Chris Teitzel, to have a input in this. One thing I'd like to bring up, though, is something that's often not looked at that closely by a lot of people, and that's our financial obligations of council. People are often saying, we borrow too much, etc. Well, our borrowings is a percentage of our rates is only 20%, which is at the very lowest bottom of the range. So council should be credited for that. It's a good place to have it. You don't want to be paying too much interest, but at times you do have to take out loans to get things done. So I think it should be realised that council is very financially responsible with their loan taking. And I'd invite Mr Teitzel to give us an update, please.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, councillors, and through you, Madam Mayor. This is the monthly report up to the end of January. The first page in the attachments of the monthly report shows the summary of where we're tracking year-to-date actuals compared to the full-year budget in terms of whether we're in the range of acceptable norms as identified by Vargo, and I'm happy to say that in all cases we're tracking about where we're expected to be. Year-to-date performance in terms of operating performance is quite high at this point, and that's due to the revenue that we've received in advance from various grants and those sorts of sources. Rates debtors is tracking about the same as last year, and our investments are currently averaging 2.48%, which is quite good. We're actually ahead of budget on income received through investments, and that's a function of the cash that we're holding at the moment and due to spend on capital projects. On the next page, which is 211, it shows a more detailed breakdown of the operating performance, and it's worth noting that there's no unfavourable variances that look to be tracking to a full year permanent variance to budget, so we're either steady or favourable on our full year projections, which is pleasing. The capital works budget versus actual is trending below where we expected it to be at this point in time based on the year-to-date budget projections. It's not unexpected for January or the December-January period to be fairly quiet, and we're hoping to see that correct itself in the coming months, but we're watching that fairly closely in terms of spend versus actual physical completion of jobs, and we're working hard to meet the targets at year end.
Thank you very much, Mr Teitzel. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to... Sorry, would you like to speak to the motion? Yeah.
Borrowing comment. It may not look on paper like we've borrowed very much, but my point here is that it's more the velocity by which we've borrowed, considering about a decade ago would it have been, we came from no borrowing at all, and now we're up to the point where we need to really look at it. So it may seem frugal on paper, but we do need to consider borrowing in a more broad way than how it looks right now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we'll now go to page 41, item 10.2, the 2018-2019 Q2 forecast review. The recommendation is also on page 41. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? That Councillor Summer.
I'll move that the Council adopt the revised forecasts identified by the 2018-2019 QT forecast review.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelman. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Given quite a detailed report here that went through most line items, which I found really helpful. And as was mentioned in the January monthly financial report, we're not hitting all targets, especially in regards to capital works, but that's not unusual. And hopefully we will improve as time goes on, and that's been reflected that we're still on target by the end of the year.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hazelman, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we'll now go to page 44, item 10.3. Contracts awarded under delegation and contracts advertised but yet to be awarded, and the recommendation is also on page 44. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
I'll move the motion that the Council notes 1. Tendered contracts awarded under delegated authority by the Chief Executive Officer. 2. Contracts awarded under delegated authority by a Director. And 3. Requests for tenders advertised but not yet awarded.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's nice to be able to move this one, because I really like the layout. It's really clear. It shows that the CEO has a delegated authority of up to $500,000, and this is an exercise in transparency where it's all listed. It hasn't gone to a council meeting, but it's considered part of our council plan and part of our strategy. What I really like is that we've got a contract in place for solar panels at Doyles Road, which kind of means we're practicing what we preach in terms of solar. Really excited to see the Tatura Museum extension take place. And also the design and construction of the Merrigum Splash Park is another one that I wanted to watch closely. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just want to add that I'm really pleased to see this section every time, basically, because it just put an emphasis on our principles of governance, good governance, and transparency. So it's very important for our community also to see what projects and what contracts are being awarded. So yeah, it's a good
thank you very much.
Transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we'll now go to page 49, item 10.4, contract 1896, provision of creative and production services and media buying for Shepparton Show Me. The recommendation is also on page 41. 49. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Giovanetti.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move the motion on page 49, and I will read it out. The Council accept the request for tender, including schedule of rates submitted by Alchemy Media for contract 1896, provision of creative and production services and media buying for Shepparton Show Me, for the estimated overall cost of the contract of $1.2 million. Note that the contract term is for a 3-year period with a 1-by-1 extension option, and authorise the CEO to sign and seal the contract documents.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giovanetti. Do I have a seconder, please? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutton. Councillor Giovanetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this is one of the important tenders that we're awarding well, this is one of the most important that we'll be awarding over the next few months. There were 9 tenders received for this particular project. There was discussion with a number of the preferred tenderers to form a panel, but they decided they did not wish to go ahead and do that, so therefore one tender was accepted as the preferred tenderer. The works that are going to be undertaken over the next 3 years will be the development of effective and creative promotional campaigns and creative initiatives that will support meeting the goals of the Show Me marketing strategy, design and production of marketing collateral to support the execution of marketing campaigns, coordinate, facilitate activities or events to support the execution of marketing campaigns, undertaking media buying to ensure that campaigns are targeted and effective, and evaluation of campaigns to assist in measuring effectiveness. Now, I think we will all be aware of the extremely effective ads that we did with Charles Woolley that were part of the Alchemy's role in past years. I think that certainly has put Shepparton, Greater Shepparton on the map, both within our region and also, I think, from right throughout the state and interstate. I've had people comment that they've seen it on various aeroplanes, flights, the ads. So I think that the work that's been previously done has been exceptionally good, and it's good to see that Alchemy are able to undertake this role for another 3 years.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giovannetti. Councillor Sutton, would you like to speak to the motion?
Alchemy is a very well-respected agency that has worked in this area for many years, both in Australia and overseas. And Alchemy has also been pivotal in many of our Show Me's projects over many years as well. So I'm very happy to award this contract or this tender to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sutton. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, it's the weighting that's got me. There's 30% weighting applied to relevant industry experience and outcomes, and then 20% weighting of creativity, innovation and freshness. Now, I agree that that's important, but in this case it goes the opposite way. Price is only 15%, understanding Show Me objectives is only 15%, project management experience is only 10%, customer service 5%, local content 5%. Now, you would think for a local campaign, local content would be a lot more than 5%, and to me it seems like it won't pass the pub test of whether or not we've been robust enough. We had so many people tender and we end up with one. And I understand that from the first evaluation, there were 2 that managed to pass 70%, which meant that they went on for further evaluation. And of that, interestingly, the weighting applied was 20% across the board. And it was from that evaluation that it was identified that it wasn't practical to have 2 people supplying this service, which I don't agree with necessarily because there's no room for competition. The reasoning behind that was maintaining our brand integrity, which I also don't necessarily agree with because it's a very expensive branding exercise. I would like to have a panel like we had in the first instance. There's a passage in here that says creativity and understanding target markets does not equate to dollar figures. Now, I don't think that's very accountable because we should be able to equate that to dollar figures. So I strongly disagree with this motion, and I really think we ought to go back and try to get a panel so that we can have a more broad input on what the community would like delivered.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, I totally support this. The panel was made up, or the panel that looked at the contract was made up of a mixture of council members, staff, and also businessmen and women that regularly purchase, buy, spend money on contracts, etc. So I have full confidence in what they've done. Alchemy has been proven. They've had a great campaign with the Charles Woolley campaign. They continue to do it, and I totally support the preferred tender.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Giovannetti, would you like to use your right of reply?
I don't think I need to, Madam Mayor. I think it's all been reasonably well covered, to be perfectly honest.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Okay, so we'll now go through all those in favour. Councillor Hazelman, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Sutton, Councillor Abdullah, Councillor Giovannetti and Councillor Adam and Councillor O'Keefe. Against, Councillor Summer. Thank you very much. And reconfirm that the motion was carried. Councillors, will now go to page 54, item 10.5, 2017-2021 Council Plan 2018-19 Quarter 2 Progress Report, and the recommendation is also on page 54. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
The Council note the progress report for the 2017-2021 Council Plan, which provides details in relation to achieving the measures of success identified in the Council Plan.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Abdullah. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
It probably doesn't garner the kind of interest that it should in the community, as well as something that we really should keep in mind in the back of all our heads when we're making decisions. It's a document that we set out at the very beginning of our term, and at first glance you might think it's quite high level, overarching, broad, you can almost apply it to almost anything, but these are instances when we have a breakdown on tangible results that come out of this plan, so it's really pleasing to see. We're kicking goals in a lot of ways, but having trouble with things that are largely due to external factors such as library attendance and things such as, but always room for improvement, and we seem to be kicking along well.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I found this report very interesting, very useful, and I think it needs people need to be more engaged in terms of reading and understanding this report, because this is one report. It's like a progress report. It's like our progress card, basically, report card of what has been done in terms of council's plan and how the KPIs are tracking. And having a quick look at the report obviously tells you that that not everything is rosy, but many areas are improving. Many areas have got outstanding performance, but then some of them are also needing more attention. It's pleasing to see that in terms of overall council direction, we have sort of exceeded the target of a score of 47, and the actual score is 65. And similarly, overall performance, the target was set for 49.5, but your actual score is 64. So it just shows that yes, the council is doing very well in terms of council direction and performance. In terms of, however, there are some other KPIs where we need more work, more improvements. One of them is about the number of people cycling to work within Greater Shepparton, and I noticed that the target was not achieved. So this is again an area of improvement. So basically, the idea is to have a good look at the report and actually have some objective data to understand the performance of this council.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Abdullah. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Adam?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to add that if you look at the 5 themes that make up our current council plan, you'll find the previous 10 or 12 or 13 motions that we've just passed fit perfectly within each of those themes. Each one of those supports that, so I believe we're well on track and tracking well in that respect.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adam. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors will now go to page 57, item 11.1, rename the Flanagan Place Tatura. Rename Flanagan Place Tatura, get that right? And the recommendation is also on page 59. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll move the recommendation as printed on page 59 of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hazelman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Patterson. Councillor Hazelman, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's largely an administrative process from here of releasing this for public comment, so I wouldn't want to go into the merits or otherwise of the proposal, but I would note that it's been proposed to Council with the support of the Tatura Senior Citizens Club, the Tatura Community Plan Committee and the Flanagan family. So at some point in the future, when the consultation process, the public exhibition, Council will need to make a decision on the merits.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hazelman. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'm just absolutely staggered that there's actually some confusion in the jewel of the crown. Futurity got something they can't handle, sort of thing. A former council would be sort of putting it differently, but it's a bit of confusion over there, and it's easily sorted out. There's a process to go through, and a lot of it's to do with emergency vehicles being called and getting confused, that sort of stuff. So there's a process there which we'll go through now, and everyone's happy with the outcome, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 62, item 11.2, River Connect Implementation Advisory Committee Community Member Appointments, and the recommendation is also on page 62. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Patterson.
Yes, I'd like to move the motion on page 62. I'll read it out. The Council appoint the following community representatives to the River Connect Implementation Advisory Committee for the term of 3 years commencing on the 20th of February 2019 and concluding in the 20th of February 2022. And they are Jay Whittaker, Matthew Crawford, Bruce Cumming, Pat Fee and Rod McLean.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Patterson. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam, thank you for that. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. I'd first of all like to thank and congratulate Bruce Cumming, Pat Fee and Rod McLennan, who have re-nominated. They've been a long-term member of, the three have been long-term members of River Connect. At least two of them have been there since the start, and one of them's been there for a long time. And I'd certainly like to welcome Jay Whittaker and Matthew Crawford, who both have a lot of expertise in different fields, which will be a terrific asset to River Connect. So I'm hoping this gets up because we already had our first meeting. So it's important we finish it off.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to add my congratulations to all the representatives. They're doing a great job, and well, the ones that are on and the new ones will do it as well.
Thank you very much for that. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those
Can
in...
I just have a closing comment, which I should have... Probably, I'd like to thank John Gray for his services over the year too. It's the first time that John hasn't been on our committee since the start of it, I believe.
Point. Thank you, John.
Got a gold watch, so we didn't have to...
Okay. We'll all go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we'll now go to page 66, item 11.3, River Connect Implementation Advisory... Oops, sorry, have we done that one? No. River Connect Implementation Advisory Terms of Reference. The recommendation is also on page 66. I thought I was doubling up there. Would a councillor like to move a motion? Councillor Patterson?
Yes, I'd like to move the motion on page 66 that Council adopt the revised terms of reference for the River Connect Implication Advisory Committee. It's been a long day.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Summer. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, this is reviewed, and this year was best reviewed because we had more applicants for positions on River Connect than we did positions. So the two new members we decided would be better off having the organisation have the benefit of both of them on there. For those that don't know, River Connect was formed several years ago now, and it's jointly funded by Council and the Golden Broken Catchment Management Authority. And there is a jewel and an aisle out there, literally, we have running through our back door. Council has had the privilege of having a paddle down last year, and I think everyone here now appreciates our river more. I would also like to thank Meg and Alison from River Connect, do a terrific job. The future of this committee will be seen in future years. A lot of the time spent is educating our primary school children on site, taking them down there and showing them the river, and they're becoming more and more involved with that. As the years flow on, they'll be guardians and custodians of that river because they know what actually is down there. which can only be a good thing. We'll have less littering, we'll have more people down there protecting it. It all is good for the future. So I strongly recommend that we adopt this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just remembering doing that paddle down the river that Councillor Patterson mentioned a little while ago, and that was amazing. I don't know if we can make that more of a thing for the community to do, but it's an experience you don't really expect to get in Greater Shepparton. A lot of us don't use the river as much as we probably could, and it's a huge asset. The wildlife out there, the scope for small events, the clean up the bush days, the education is fantastic. And the beauty of this committee is that it's outside the financial sphere. This is something council does because of our responsibility, because we recognise the river as social, economic, environmental, educational and cultural. So this is the sort of impact that we should be focusing on. This is the philosophy that I'd like this council to take on board with most of its decision making in terms of weighting criteria, because this is exactly it's filling the gap between the public and the private sector for the benefit of the community.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 69, item 11.4, Cousin Park Advisory Committee. There's a recommendation on page 69 and 70. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Like to move a motion? Councillor Summer.
The recommendation as printed on page 69 and 70.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Giovanetti. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Like we've got some environmental champions here who want to take this on board, which is terrific. As stated earlier, we can't achieve what we need to achieve as a council without volunteers. So I'll read out the names of the people who we're suggesting should be part of this. We've got Terry Court, Simon Cohen, Lydia Drake, Greg Smith, Sean Trebley, Yvette Williams, and we'll write to Alfred Huberman, thanking him for his service to the community through his participation as a member prior.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Councillor Giovanetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Councillor Summer summed it up pretty well. Cousins Park is this advisory committee is there to look after Cousins Park. Cousins Park, as we know, is a very popular park over in Tatura, where there are a considerable number of groups who utilise it. And I was reading somewhere in the Tatura Guardian, might have been, that they were infested with bats at one point, I think, and the park had to be closed for some short period. But that now has all been sorted out. But that's the role that this committee undertakes. So we congratulate them for the work that they do.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giovanetti. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Patterson?
I'd just like to probably correct Councillor Giovanetti. Infested with bats isn't probably the terminology we'd like to call our native wildlife resting in a wonderful area. Probably a lot of people are happy that they're there.
Yeah.
Infested probably wasn't your best choice of words.
Okay, all right. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
Yeah, just would like to highlight that, one of the things that I was noticing was that only 6 nominations that were received by community were basically nominations from existing advisory committee members, and it's fantastic to see that we have got such passionate members. But perhaps for the sake of this committee and to have to sort of expand the scope of membership, perhaps the committee needs to do more on promotion side and encourage other members of the community to join the committee, because according to the terms of reference of the committee, they can be 5 to 11 members, and currently it's 6, so 5 rather. So yeah, it would be good to see that we have more members in this committee. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, will now go to page 73, item 11.5, Council submission to draft solar energy facilities design and development guidelines. The recommendation is on page 74. Would the Council like to move a motion, please? Councillor Adam.
Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 74 as the motion that Council endorse the submission to the draft solar energy facilities design and development guidelines.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Giovanetti. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a hugely important subject. Council have currently got 4 permit applications before it in respect to solar farms or solar energy facilities. I think Council sat through a lot of submissions from a lot of the people out there in the community objecting. A lot of these objections were probably misinformed. We felt that we weren't satisfactorily, well, we didn't have the knowledge really to make an informed decision on these subjects. So I can say that this Council instigated or helped instigate the state government to put together a panel to hear everyone's submissions with the ultimate aim of actually developing some guidelines. Now, the guideline draft has been developed. Councillors have seen that. Our officers have obviously had a good look at that and generally agree with it. I just want to highlight a couple of points that we will be submitting that I think we need further clarification, and these are just quickly further detail on what planning officers need to consider when assessing planning permit applications for solar energy facilities, a set of standard planning permit conditions, which is what we were seeking from the beginning. It also recommended that any standard condition in relation to the decommissioning of facilities requires evidence of how the decommissioned structures and panels will be recycled to avoid additional whole-of-life costs. And very important, the final point was the requirement of a fire management plan that will satisfy the CFA requirements. The draft guidelines do speak about fire management. They don't really outline in any detail what that consists of. So generally we agree with it. It's what we wanted the government to actually put out there. We've all seen it. We're happy with it. We need to encourage as much solar farms as possible, I think, but obviously it's got to be done in a regulated way, and these guidelines will go a long way to ensuring that happens.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adam. Councillor Giovanetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I reiterate what Councillor Adam has said. When we received these applications some months ago now, we've found that we probably didn't have the knowledge to be able to set a set of standardised guidelines that were required. We were not the only municipality that was in a similar position, and we felt that at that stage it was best to send it back to the Minister and get his department to come up with the standardised guidelines, which is what has now happened. And I think that is now set for any future applications that occur statewide.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giovanetti. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors will now go to page 78, item 11.6, Shepparton and Marutna 2050 Regional City Growth Plan, Key Issues and Opportunities Paper, February 2019. The recommendation is on page 79. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
The recommendation is printed on page 79.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam. Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. This is to authorise the exhibition of the Shepparton and Marutna 2050 plan, and it needs public comment for a period of 4 weeks. Now, obviously, it's going to be challenging to try and predict what the world's going to be like in 2050, but we do need to be on the front foot of these things in terms of large infrastructure projects like fast rail or water security, and this goes through planning issues on how we should proceed with long-term vision in mind. Now, obviously, it wasn't all done by us. I think we're putting in some in-kind resources to the tune of $100,000, but it's really the Victorian Planning Authority that's driving this. And the reason for dot point 1, which receives and notes the Shepparton Maribna 2050 Primary School Engagement Report, is that they are the ones who also produced that plan. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of submissions come back. Obviously there are planning implications, so that's probably going to be worth the read. And yes, hope, please input if you can.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion? No? Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We will now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 84, item 11.7, International Engagement Policy. The recommendation is on page 84 also. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Patterson.
I'll move the motion on page 84, the Council adopt the International Engagement Policy.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Adam. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just quickly, this was brought about a few years ago by, we had several sister cities that would visit, cost us quite a few dollars, we'd get nothing out of it, and vice versa. This is about clearly defining what we expect from a sister city and what they should expect from us. There's a sunset clause there that if we're not getting something back and they're not, there's no future in there for us, we should be out of there. 12-month review period, agreed outcomes, the opportunity to extend the formal relationship into a business ventures, etc., and a clear purpose of the agreement. So it's not about having sister cities here, there and everywhere. It's about having some identified sister cities that will be of mutual benefit to us and to them, and to work with them. If we're not going to be a mutual benefit to both, we don't need to be involved in it. It's costing us money, it's costing our staff money, and we don't need to be there, and we're better off identifying places that will be a benefit to our ratepayers and our community by working with those rather than ones that we don't need to be involved with.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This policy was a great innovation a few years ago. It formalises our relationships, as Councillor Patterson said, with our current sister cities and maybe future ones, but it also encompasses our delegations, business visits, invitations to international cities. And I know, Madam Mayor, you've been party to one just recently, or fairly recently. I don't think we can put too fine a point on what we're doing here. The budget allocation from memory is what, 90,000 per year. We don't need to use that money every year, obviously, but it's there. It puts some surety around what we're doing. We can feel confident if there is any worthwhile delegations visiting this area, or Victoria in fact. We are confident that we have the funds to actually host these people if we feel that they are great or any benefit to our region. So I really support this 100%. I hope we can continue on for many years to come.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adam. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
I just want to note that it's probably not one of our most popular policies within the community, but it does help us access parts of export markets like fruit that would not be possible without that face-to-face representation. Like China really appreciate the mayor being allocated to go and meet them face-to-face. It's early days in this policy, but we are seeing some benefits, and that will improve as things go on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Summer. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 88, item 11.8, the Shepparton Truck and Transport Museum. The recommendation is on page 89. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Giovanetti.
Mayor, I'm happy to move the motion on page 89 that states that the council endorsed the business case for Museum of Vehicle Evolution, or MOVE, Shepparton, provide financial support of up to $1.375 million, I should say, including GST, subject to MOVE securing funding from Victorian Government, Federal Government and private industry. A formal funding agreement is signed by both parties and the project meeting all legal and planning requirements.
Thank you very much. Councillor Giovannetti, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Patterson. Councillor Giovannetti, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This concept first came before us, and I'll look over to nearly less than 12 months ago, wasn't it? Just over 12 months ago. And right from the start, we as a council could see that there was considerable benefit to the community with this project getting a move on. What we're looking at is 3,000 square metres of indoor space for exhibitions and 7,000 square metres of additional outdoor undercover area for displays and larger scale events. As we know, Shepparton is a significantly large trucking area. I think the figures that have been quoted is Shepparton has 1 in 4 trucks throughout, I think it's throughout Australia, the 1 in 4 trucks based here in Shepparton, which is a huge number. The concept of providing a museum attached to the existing car museum, I think is great and can only benefit significantly the tourism coming into Shepparton. Having visited the truck museum at Alice Springs, I was staggered, A, by the number of vehicles that were there, but B, by the number of people who were visiting. And if we can mimic that display up there, we'll be doing extremely well. The committee have moved and have already received a grant from the Commonwealth Government of 2.5 mil and 1.25 from the Victorian Government, and if this motion is successful tonight, 1.25 mil from us, or 1.375, which is inclusive of GST, just in case anyone was wondering. I think it's really amazing if we think about it. A project like this that's really been on the cards for just over 12 months, for a voluntary committee to have the foresight to start it and follow it through and get the commitments that they have over such a very short period of time is a fantastic achievement. I congratulate the Committee of Move and the prior Shepparton Museum Committee, or Shepparton Motor Vehicle Museum Committee, for their efforts. I think not too many places could achieve, not too many organisations could achieve what they have achieved in such a short period of time. So I sincerely congratulate them on their efforts.
Thank you very much, Councillor Giovannetti. Councillor Patterson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Councillor Giovannetti summarised it very well, but at the risk of getting yourself into trouble here, there's lots to do in Shepparton when you get here. You can travel to Shepparton to participate in one of the great sporting events we have, etc. We do a great job with that, but we don't really have a standalone place where you would drive from Melbourne to visit for the day, and this will be it. It is will be our premium tourism attraction, I believe. Everything else will feed off it. It'll be terrific for all the other tourism precincts. It'll be terrific, and I agree with what Bruce has said. It's terrific that the work that's gone in from these people have done a terrific job. And at this age, you don't get excited too easy, I can tell you, but the 2 briefings we've had in the last 6 months when they've left after briefing, I've been generally excited about the future for that project. It really is a project that will be a standalone. Come to Shepparton and look at this, and that's what we've been lacking in lots of ways, and hopefully there'll be a few more in the not too distant future. But I congratulate the committee. They're doing a great job, and please keep the great work up.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. Would any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Abdullah?
I would agree with Councillor Patterson and Councillor Giovannetti in appreciating the hard work that has been done, and I am really pleased, and I'll be happily supporting this recommendation, because it will be a very valuable addition to to Shepparton's tourist attractions and perhaps one-of-a-kind museum in Victoria. It will also be a sort of a major tourist attraction which will showcase the Greater Shepparton's heritage due to the region's strong link with the transport industry, and since 1 in 4 trucks in Victoria is registered here. So I am really looking forward to its development and the project progress, and I wish them all the best.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abdullah. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Summer.
I agree that it's incredibly exciting. It shows us what a committee can do. It shows us how things really should be done from the ground up. The whole community seems to be on board with this, and it's a testament to them, the community rallying behind a project that they believe in. I think it's relatively modest in size, but it fits the needs of our community, and it will attract attention, probably as far as interstate. So to me, it ticks all the boxes, and I'm very proud to be voting on this.
Thank you very much. Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? I'd like to speak to the motion, and I'd like to say that this is an exciting opportunity for others, you know, to look at what's happening across Greater Shepparton, and I certainly thank Move for this bold investment in our community, in our region. I think we are growing as a region. We're certainly doing some incredible things, and it's getting noticed, and we're hoping that this type of build will attract others. Build and they will come, and I'm sure that will be the case. So very much looking forward to this, and fantastic that we're heading into endorsing the business case and moving into that more formal next stage. So congratulations. All right, we'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we now go to page 96. We have some items to note. Item 12, reports from councillors, nil received. Item 13, reports from special and advisory committees, nil received. Item 14, notice of motion, amendment or rescission, nil received. Item 15, documents for signing and sealing, nil received. We'll now go to page 97, item 16.1. As I said on page 97, Councillors' Community Interaction and Briefing Program. The recommendation is on page 98. Would a councillor like to move a motion, please? Councillor Abdullah.
I would like to move the recommendation on page 98 as a motion. And the recommendation is that the summary of the Councillors' Community Interaction and Briefing Program be received and the record of assemblies of councillors be noted.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutton. Councillor Abdullah, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, it's self-explanatory. It just tells about the councillors' community interaction and record of assemblies of councillors. So, not much there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sutton, would you like to speak to the motion? Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? To the motion?
I'd just like to say I'm very impressed that the Mayor did park run for violence against women. It's a 5K court circuit.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abdullah might have a different story to tell, but that's okay. A couple of shortcuts along the way.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, but anyone else like to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors will now go to page 99, item 17, urgent business not included in the agenda, nil received. Item 18, confidential management reports. We actually have an item 18.1 on page 99, designation of confidentiality of information reports attachments. Would someone like to move the recommendation as a motion, please? Councillor Adam.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation on page 99 as a motion. I won't read it out. It's there in front of everyone.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Hazelman. Councillor Adam, would you like to speak to the motion?
I assume everyone can read.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hazelman.
Madam Mayor.
Any councillor wish to speak against the motion? Would any councillor wish to speak to the motion? We'll now go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. And that's the end of our meeting tonight. I now declare the meeting closed at 7:50. Thank you very much.